Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, where we bring the mind, body, and gym together so you can improve your health, increase performance, and live your best life. For more information, visit thinkfitnesslife.com. Here are your hosts, Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie.
Think Fitness Life podcast. We have a little bit of a different approach today. I got two great trainers with me, part of the Think Fitness Life team, and what we're going to do is have a little bit of a kind of a game show here. We're going to throw out a little different prompts and have them take turns giving answers. Before we get started, I just kind of wanted to explain our whole endeavor. All three of us work with clients one-on-one. We understand how difficult the journey is, so we just wish to remind people that we already have the best weapons at our disposal, our minds. All three of us have manifested the bodies, the health, and the lifestyle we wanted, and we accredit our success to mindset. So we want to spend today delivering information on and based upon these experiences. So a little intro on my training team here. I got Eric. He's a personal trainer. He's located in Boston right now, and he focuses more on biomechanics, posture positioning, and looking at the body from a systems biology lens. Justin, my other all-star trainer, located out of Tampa, Florida, is a personal trainer who focuses more on overall lifestyle performance with reference to movement and exercise. So, is everyone here? Roll call. Eric, you here?
We're good.
All right, just want to make sure your microphone's working. Riddick, you here? Justin?
I hear you loud and clear.
All right, cool. Let's let this thing ride. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to read a short prompt, and they're going to take turns giving an answer. You guys feel free to take however long you want. You know, it's no real strict thing here, though. I'm going to have Eric go first. All right, first prompt. I woke up feeling like dog shit, and I have to lift heavy. Do I buck up? Or do I push my workout back to the evening?
I'm a buck up kind of person. Always have been. It's gonna be okay. You're gonna kind of figure out how it goes, and we're gonna get the best out of it today, even if we have to scale back a little bit.
Okay. All right. I like it. Justin?
You know, I'd like to say that I'm a buck up sort of guy too, but I'll be completely honest with you. You know, having a newborn, or not newborn anymore, but now having a kid, I definitely can relate to those days where you're just not feeling it. And I can tell you I've pushed a lot of workouts back when I have a little bit more energy. So I like to get the most out of my workout when I'm feeling the absolute best. So I'll always try to find a way to rearrange my day a little bit and push the workout off a little bit if I need to.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's no wrong or right answer. That's the beauty of it, is it's all situational. And I think that's the best thing, is just giving people options and realistic solutions based upon our experiences. And yeah, I can agree with both you guys. There's been times where I've been like, just got to buck up and get through this. Everything's gonna feel heavy. I'm gonna feel like I don't have any extra energy, but whatever, I'll get through it. But then there's also those times where it's like, you know what, let's push this back to an hour or a couple hours
pushing through
this
those
evening.
times.
Like you said, sometimes just a couple hours or a quick little 15-minute nap can be the difference to making you perform. All right, next topic.
Hold on, can I go back to that real quick? Going with what Menchie said though, just buck up.
Yeah,
definitely. I was just saying that with what Menchie was saying, sometimes you got to buck up and just, you know, suck it up and go for it. It's really important in terms of training your mental strength training as well, and just sucking it up and putting in the work when you don't want it sometimes, you know? So I definitely give you credit for that. That's really important as well there, Menchie.
Yeah, and I feel like more so in, like, as I got older, I couldn't just grip it and rip it. And I had to be mindful in my workout so that I did proper movement patterns. I didn't compensate. So that's a good kind of deciding factor. If you're at the stage where everything feels healthy and you're trying to build mental toughness, you should just push yourself and have that discipline, fake it till you make it a little bit. But if you're still fixing movement patterns or just cleaning up form in general and working on technique, then you're probably going to be better off waiting later in the day when you have some extra mental energy to put the focus and the tension where you want it. All right. This one's pretty common. And a lot of some of these questions are actually what people would send emails in or comments about, kind of hearing different topics for. So just to say, anyone who's listening, they want some questions answered, feel free to shoot an email to thinkfitnesslife@gmail.com. So this one's pretty common. Just walked into the gym. All the squat racks are taken. Menchie's probably curling in one of them. What do I do?
Grab a kettlebell and goblet squat.
Yeah. Even if you're deadlifting, just grab a kettlebell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. There's so many different tools to use in the gym. Like if a squat rack's taken, you can find something else and you can make it work. I mean, kettlebells, dumbbells.
So to make up for like a formal barbell back squat or a formal barbell deadlift or a formal barbell bench press, because you'd probably use a squat rack for that too. What's your next favorite alternative?
My next favorite alternative to not having a squat rack available. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So assuming you can steal a barbell from another place in the gym, I mean, you can still get some good barbell work in there, but I'd probably go kettlebells. And if you're looking to get a heavy day and you just don't have the weights available, then I would say you really focus on your time under tension and just increase the intensity that way.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good solution. What about you, Menchie?
Yeah, I'm kind of probably this very similar. If whatever I have programmed for that day, I'm gonna try to do it in just a different variation. So if it's a squat, I'm gonna goblet squat. If it's a bench, I'm gonna like dumbbells, deadlift. I'll try to find something. Still get that movement pattern in.
And still just focus, like the primary principle is just time under tension. Just
Yeah.
focus on getting good time under tension. It doesn't necessarily have to be at that heavy load that you would do with the barbell.
Right. I stick to whatever my workout is. I'm gonna get those movements in. I just might have to adjust accordingly and not try to change and flip programs.
Okay, that's smart. Kind of stay to the course in terms of what's written for the day. I like that. All right, another popular one. I forgot my meal prep, and there's only fast food around, Dunkin' Donuts and Subway. Do I grab one of those, or do I skip lunch and wait to eat later? Post-workout, we're talking about here.
I'd skip till later and get some quality. I can't.
I think I'd agree with you there, Menchie. Yeah, I mean, you're better off waiting and putting some quality nourishment back in your body than eating something like that. So I agree. I'd hold off, wait until later. And I think people don't realize that the window to get food in post-workout is a little bit longer than a lot of us think. A lot of people think, you need to get food in like immediately after a workout. You got a much longer window than you think. So I'd hold off until a little bit later.
This is one that I actually learned just now listening to you guys, because I used to fall into that habit of feeling like once my workout ended, I had this like 30-minute timer and I had to just like get nutrients in, or I'm going to lose muscle, right? Or like back when I used to believe that if I did cardio, I'd lose muscle type of deal. And I was a type where I would go to Wendy's, get an original chicken sandwich, or just find like the cheapest, healthiest alternative, because it was like the poor man's bulking diet type of deal. But yeah, that's interesting to hear. Both your answers are to just postpone, just wait, and get quality.
A lot of people fall into that notion, and it's even with protein. It's not about like when you get it; it's about total in a day. So you just wait till later. You can still hit your quality protein window, and still get the same benefit.
Yeah, that just reminds me too of those times where we'd sit down with clients in an assessment, and you'd be like, what was your diet like? Like even just asking a day in the life yesterday, and they're like, well, I eat protein first, and they're like talking to us as if they were trainers basically, and then you always dive deeper, and you're like, you ate like a chicken salad from whatever, with a bunch of other garbage in it. So it's reassuring to hear you guys really focus on the quality. You know, everything comes back to the movement patterns in the gym. It's not about just getting the volume in. It's about getting quality movement patterns in. So eat real food, people. Don't eat at Dunkin' Donuts. Don't eat at Subway. This is not. We were not sponsored by them in any way by mentioning their names. Okay. In terms of workout splits, argue for this sentence. Isolated muscle groups are best for programming.
Argue for it?
Yeah, and this is kind of out of character. I know. That's why this is kind of difficult. Make an argument for this sentence. Isolated muscle groups are best for workout splits.
I get more growth out of that muscle group, more targeted. I get more adaptations that I want.
Menchie was like searching around for that. It's like hurting him for that to leave his teeth.
Right. So let me get this correct.
What about you, Riddick?
What I need to do is I need to support this statement, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's funny because what's ironic is I literally just made a post the other day on why you should train movements and not specific muscle groups. So, I mean, if you want to focus on physique and you're training for, a physique competition, bodybuilding, then I mean, isolate away and you want to watch those biceps grow and those boulder shoulders grow, then absolutely go for it. Isolate all day.
All right. As my as your audience is listening to this, I hope you guys really hear the difficulty and the painstaking responses coming from these two trainers, because we all three of us wholeheartedly believe that the best way to work the body is work it as a system altogether. So I'll let them talk about that next one then. Argue for this sentence. Total body workouts are best.
Hormone response. You get more growth hormone, testosterone, more muscles working in a training session. If you want to talk about metabolic demand and calories burned, you're going to get more out of it. This one's kind of like the one where I live in and tell people to live in. Bang for your buck, efficiency.
Yeah.
And obviously movement pattern efficiency as well.
And every day, doing something total body every day, whether that's 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 2 times a week, those lifting sessions are total body. What about you, Riddick?
Yeah, I agree. Exactly what Eric said there. You get more bang for your buck, and training movement patterns for longevity of life. Like, bicep curls may make your arms look great, but they're not going to help you walk around when you're 60, 70, 80 years old, So unless you plan on walking on your hands, training movement patterns that are going to keep you moving the rest of your life with quality and independence is definitely key for me. So not something I would have thought about when I was, younger and in my 20s, but now that I'm starting to get up there, I feel like an old man from time to time. It's definitely thinking more about longevity and quality of life. So
I think it also just feels better to move like your whole body in a session rather than just to I'm just going to do leg staying. I'm like, nah, I'd rather just get everything kind of going.
And especially coming from, the standpoint of, being an athlete, at least at one point in time, I was an athlete. It's good to move and feel like an athlete rather than just to, chase a pump and, isolation work, but to move like an athlete just gets, the mind, the body, everything connecting there and working really well. So I agree. More bang for your buck with.
Yeah, I just want to add the added piece of the fact that your whole body's working together as a system. So like on a day where you're doing pressing, you're still doing something lower body, so that say that you go and deadlift another day, your upper body and lower body can connect and engage properly through your core and your pelvic flooring, versus if you just keep getting better at just lying down and moving weight with the rest of your body not under tension, then when you go to stand and do something from a different position, it's less likely that your whole body is going to be working together. So just like kind of like what you guys said, I think it's really important to highlight the functionality of working out total body workouts. So anyone who's still doing isolated muscle group workouts and you're not trying to make a living by standing on stage, you should adjust. Oh, we should mention that Riddick has won first overall on a bodybuilding show. So, and he's over here saying that you shouldn't do isolated workouts. Just saying. All right. last one before we move on to the weekly exercise and then the topic of the day. For or against, and why? Protein shakes.
For them. If someone needs the extra protein and eating's not, they're already eating enough and it's just topping over, it helps people gain lean body mass, especially athletes, kind of maintain that. So for them in that aspect, general public, if they're not eating right, probably I'm against them. But overall, I'm for them.
I would agree. I'm definitely for them. I wouldn't seek them out as being a meal replacement for general public. I think a lot of people tend to just want to find the quickest and easiest way to consume their calories, hence why people seek out fast food and pre-made meals. So like Mitch, you said, if someone's looking for, a protein shake to take the place of eating quality food, I would say that's not the way to go. But in terms of their convenience and, other simple things like they have a long shelf life. You don't have to worry about it going bad anytime soon. It's a great way to supplement and add to an already healthy diet. So for sure, I'm for it.
What about, could you overdo it by doing 2 a day? Now, granted, they're still getting proper nutrition. They're not replacing nutrition with shakes, but would you be okay with having someone take 2 protein shakes a day?
I would, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, cool. Do you guys currently use protein shakes?
Yep.
I do.
What brands do you guys use?
So I've used everything under the sun, and
What are you currently using though?
I'm currently using a very generic brand from Sprouts. It's a vegan pea protein.
Nice.
I haven't used a whey protein in probably better part of the past, probably about a year it's been since I used the whey protein. I've been using the vegan protein for the past year or so, and I think it works just as fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I've messed around with some plant protein powders as well. Taste is a little different, but
It is a little different.
I'm not the type of person that can handle whey or some of these other major inflammatory causing compounds. What are you using, Munchie?
And she looks like you have a strong opinion there.
Ever since you got me hooked on this cricket protein, I've been taking cricket protein powder.
Do you really still?
No, I use whey protein.
Protein. It's the way of the future, I'm telling you.
Protein. Wow, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, that was a rough one. That was disgusting.
It tasted very earthy, very dirt-like. But it was the best quality, and I remember, like if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have just done cricket protein from day one and never whey protein.
I don't know if I could.
Probably would have been at springier. I probably would have jumped a little higher or further.
That's right. Get some cricket blood in you. We're good.
Hey,
all right,
anything that you mix with a little cocoa powder.
Well, you could have told me before I just mix it with straight water that you mix it with cocoa powder.
Oh gosh.
Where did you find this stuff? Where did you find this?
Amazon.
Amazon, where you find everything these days.
Yeah, pretty much. Cool. So that was kind of like our fast round. We're going to talk about our weekly exercise, and then we'll go into our topic of the day. So weekly exercise, the split squat, barbell, dumbbell, front racked position. When is it in your programs, and why?
So personally, I love the split squat. It's something I've been using a lot as of recent. And the primary reason why I was using it was I needed to give my back a break from just all the heavy back squatting that I was doing. I didn't want to load up my spine the same way. So I've been doing a lot of split squats, a lot of rear foot elevated split squats, Bulgarians, whatever you want to call them. And I find that you get the most bang for your buck out of that exercise, especially coming from, like I said earlier, trying to still hold on to what little bit of an athlete I have left. A lot of sports, you're pushing off one leg, you got to be dynamic. So I really like how that really puts a focus on just that single leg strength. And I think, the stronger each single leg is, the stronger you're going to be as a whole. And it just hits so many other factors in terms of core strength, stabilization. And when it comes to what tool I like to use, I definitely am a fan of doing it with kettlebells. I'll offset it with a kettlebell and a rack position, put a kettlebell in a suitcase position, and just challenge my core to work a little bit more. So I'm a huge fan of split squats. I've definitely been doing them a lot lately.
So rack position on the side where the leg's doing work, and the
I would put
suitcase
suitcase on the side that is either elevated or extended. So rack
okay
position on the leg that
on
is
the
working.
working leg.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And then switching sides.
Now you can always you can switch it up too. I mean, it's gonna feel a little
Yeah,
awkward at first. It's gonna throw you off a bit, but it's gonna challenge that core to work a whole lot more. So
to have it in the off leg too. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah, and
nice.
with that, we're talking about like loading with parameters is I like to switch it because I look at it as if you're in that split squat, think of like running mechanics and gait pattern. If you're racking it on the same side the legs up, you're kind of it's I look at it as you're coming out of a cut as you come up, that weight's over and you're pushing off of that leg. If it's contralateral, that's helping you go in towards the cut because you're going to rotate into that stance leg. So it's like there's split squats are unbelievable. Any variation for athletes to teach them to absorb force coming into a cut or out of a cut or out of position into acceleration, deceleration. So any way you kind of put it, rear foots, front foot elevated, like it's going to work different aspects of gait mechanics and put the hip in a
It,
different position.
is it fair to say though that both you guys wouldn't put that as the primary movement of the day? It would probably be like an accessory lift.
So the more I've done them, the more I make them primary. To be
Yeah,
completely honest, I've
I agree.
definitely there will be days where like I'll go for a heavy like 5x5 of just split squats and really focus on tempo. And I'll complete like for a good 3 months, I just took back squats out of my program. And I just did a lot of heavy rear foot elevated and Bulgarians and that was my primary focus. And I don't think it gets enough respect in terms of being a primary movement. Like a lot of people would think of it as an accessory similar to a lunge or a step up, but I really think you can get a lot out of doing and it's got to be obviously you got to really hone in and focus on doing it with proper form and technique. If you really
Yeah.
take your time with it, you get so much out of it. And uh, you know, I think it definitely has a place in terms of being a primary movement there.
Yeah, I'd have to
You
agree. Kind
you
of like
need a
you
lot.
could just take a squat right out of it and just put that in
Yeah,
place.
absolutely. You need a lot of focus and you need a lot of energy when doing it. If you've done them before, they take a lot out of you. So I can't imagine doing a heavy back squat and then going into some split squats afterwards and having enough juice left. So I would definitely prioritize those in my program.
Interesting. So you can program for both. You could program it as a secondary accessory movement and like a 3x10 or 3x12 on each side, but it sounds like you guys will also do like the 5x5 on each side, which probably pretty taxing considering you're doing 10 reps essentially for each set.
Yeah, if it's a primary movement, I'm probably like 6 reps or underneath and loading it pretty well. So I'm getting some pretty good CNS response or strength response from it. I don't think I would
What?
start it primary by a 3x12 necessarily, but
Right, right.
I'm looking for
But
strength 100%.
if you were to say you removed your squat day, like your back squat or your front squat, your conventional, and you decided to add the split squat instead, and then you want to periodize it through the weeks, start with the 5x5, maybe like an 8x3, whatever, and then 1 week of like a max. How are you positioning that set and rep scheme for a max of something like the split squat? Whereas like traditional back squat or front squat, you might do like a 5x5, 3, 2, 1, and then on the last set, maybe like add some weight and go for as many reps as possible to like break your PR.
You could honestly do the same thing. Like you could just take
Hmm,
that and put it into the split squat rep scheme. You just got to know
interesting.
if it's 1 rep, it's a double because you're doing one each leg.
Hmm.
So even a five
Right.
by five from split squat, it's 10 total reps. That's a lot of volume. Five
Yeah,
sets of, I mean, that's a great volume thing. And if you're looking to go more strength, four by maybe like 6x2, where you can really load those 2 reps because it's 4 reps total. So I think you can kind of periodize it just like that. But you just got to respect the volume. If you want to get stronger at it, you got to drop it into 3-2-1,
yeah, for sure.
going over 4 reps a leg, I would say.
So you will work up into those 90, 95 percentiles for the barbell split squat.
Yeah, but I'm not hanging out there very long. As soon as you
Right.
start getting into 90, 95% on any one, it's very taxing. And if you keep them there too long, injuries can happen. You can kind of burn them out. So maybe like a week or two, and then getting them back to a more relative intensity where they can handle it.
What are you doing for accessory after a split squat? If your primary, I like to consider things as like my main and secondary,
Mhm.
or accessory after that, right? So it's like if I'm gonna have a main press in the week, I'm gonna have a main lower body pull and a main lower body push in the week, right? So if that's replacing your main lower body push, what's your secondary lower body push for that week, or maybe even that program?
Usually, if I'm doing a split squat, I'm in somewhat of an asymmetrical day, so I'm probably going to do some supported single leg deadlift or some
Okay.
posterior chain work that's single leg, whether it's a staggered stance, single leg RDL or something, just so they understand, okay, this is what our goal is. We're working asymmetrical. We got to get on one leg, figure this out. I'm going to pair the posterior chain with that.
What about you, Riddick?
I agree. Personally, I like to do a lot of hamstring work in pairing with my split squats. Actually, something that now that I think of it and watching Menchie talk about it, it's something that I kind of learned and not stole, but I definitely learned from him back in our days at Equinox is how to like really activate your hamstrings and pull you down into a squat. So when you're doing that split squat, if you can hit your hamstrings too as a secondary exercise, it reinforces your ability to really pull yourself down to the full range of motion there. And it's a part of your lower body that definitely gets ignored way too often. And we always think, glutes, we think quads, and hammer it with squats and step ups, whatever it may be. And the hamstrings just don't get enough love, especially as an athlete. Not even an athlete, but I just like just an everyday person, general public. Like we need to really focus on improving those hamstrings. The stronger your hamstrings are, the far less back pain you're going to have. So
Totally.
one of my favorites when it comes to hamstrings are just either disc slides, feet on heels and discs sliding,
Oh,
pull back in, or just Nordic hamstring curls are gnarly. I love those a lot,
They're
but
fun.
they're
I literally have a glute ham developer in my garage just because of the Nordic curl.
yeah, yep. I found a way to life hack that into my squat rack, and yeah, it's been working great for me.
And
Nice.
he's so right with the general population. I think not even athletes. I think the general population should be doing more split squat and asymmetrical work because we've
They're
seen
stuck
people
in
do
one
split
side.
squats or even the FMS, and their lunge, they just don't know how to drop on one leg, or they just drop aggressively, and it's they're loading knees, they're loading things wrong, and it's the ability to pull themselves down because basically single leg work is what we live in. We walk, you got to get up and down, and if people don't have that like structure or ability to do that, they're going to recruit anything else, or they won't be able to get up. So I think they're underutilized in the general population and in programs in general.
And
And as
it's and
much as
it's
the
so
general
easy.
population hate them, everyone hates split squats. I mean, they are brutal on the system.
Why do we hate them? Because they're hard, and
Yeah,
usually what's hard is good for you.
yeah.
So
What you usually hate, you should force yourself to do a little bit of. But yeah, I mean, it's so easy to have, say, bad ankle mobility or a bad hip in a back squat or a front squat and not really even be able to identify it. But then as soon as you get someone to do something single leg, it pretty much exposes their weaknesses pretty quickly.
It's a great thing with a split squat. If they still have limitations, you can elevate their front foot. Like you can do the same things. Well, not really with a squat, right? You can't really elevate people's front foot. You can put a heel wedge underneath, but like split squats, you can rear foot elevate, you can take one away, you can front foot elevate what makes it easier. You can do things that make these movements easier so it will translate to the squat so they understand, okay, this is how my ankle can go as I pull my hips down, which a lot of people forget about the split squats.
So you don't necessarily you're saying that the front foot elevated is easier. If you have like the front foot on like a 2-inch lip, I almost find that it's more difficult because it's allowing me to get to a lower depth.
So yes, I agree with that. But I think on the ankle part, if I front foot elevated, I'm going to put that person more in early propulsion, so early stance phase, as if their heel is hitting,
Okay.
looking at like a tib fib on the foot. So it gives them, as they come down, it gives them ability to go forward into that ankle a little bit more. Where rear foot elevated puts you more into late stance, then that's an aggressive angle for the foot. That's why rear foot sometimes is more challenging for people with ankle mobility because they can't get down there because the ankle won't let them.
Right. It doesn't force as much ankle flexion there
So
when they look.
I'll bring them front foot elevated to be like, okay, your tib fibs can translate and move forward as you squat down. Therefore, when they go to a squat, they start to get, okay, these things go forward as my hips go.
So the split squat is almost the progression to a Bulgarian split squat,
Yeah.
is what you're saying?
So you get like, and you're just, it's not, there's no one right or wrong. You're just training different
Oh,
phases
yeah.
of
Of the
ankle mobility propulsion that could limit them. But I would say probably rear foot elevated is probably because you're taking one foot completely off is the probably
the
one of the
ground.
end
Yeah.
ones to try to get to.
And you're not really pushing off that leg for any support or anything like that. Like I love using like a single leg RDL and actually having their foot on the wall because that way they're getting some feedback from that leg still, and they're able to keep their whole pelvic flooring on rather than kind of rotating over one hip. But
Hey,
I'm
but
kind
you could
of
even do a split squat with a heel wedge underneath, so you get the same, you know, angle. You get a different
make your
angle of the
movement a
tib
little
fib.
squatty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can drop it in. It's going to feel completely different to that person, but you're giving them a different position through the ankle and the leg, and then be like, okay, you can move your hips down and up onto it.
But that's a good note for anyone who does lift in lifting shoes. Your accessory work law of specificity should match the way that you're doing your primary work. Although we did go back and say split squats are primary work, but you
Can
guys
be
get what
more.
I'm saying. Like if you're going to split squat and do it in a way that you're trying to improve like your front squat or your back squat or your clean, whatever, one day, then you probably want to have your lifters on as well.
That's the beauty of it because you can take it and be like, all right, we're gonna change this split squat. And you, like Justin, you might not go back to squatting for 1 or 2 months, and then you go back and you realize your squat's completely different, or it's better. You get more range of motion out of it because you just train your body in a different biomechanical stance, and then you just put a different exercise to it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I want to throw also one more exercise out there to complement what Riddick was saying, how important it is to support the hips from the muscles in our posterior chain that usually get neglected. I've been loving this. You do the hamstring curl with the physio ball, and then you go one leg off and you go eccentric with the other leg. So it's two legs in, one leg out. And just kind of I've been loving that with my clients because it's really been getting them to feel their hamstrings even more than just the part at the end when they're squeezing everything tight. And then they just kind of can push it out slow. It's like too fast almost. So like forces you to go a little slower with the single legs. That's another good one I like to throw in there.
People like to feel, if you like to feel those muscles when they're contracted, but if like we want to get them feeling where it's lengthened, like
When it's
eccentric,
not
you can feel
contracted
that
and
go.
keeping it
You know,
That's
passively
yeah.
for sure. For sure.
That's definitely
and
when it's
essentially that's what the split squat is because as you come down, everything's eccentric. Can you feel those muscles? Like Justin was saying, can you feel them? Most people can't. You feel them eccentrically pulling you down. Then when you go concentric, hey, there's power, there's performance, there's stability, there's walking, there's running, there's longevity.
think not yeah not just like if you think about it, like obviously like a really important aspect when it comes to sports and how dynamic it is your ability to decelerate. And think about when most people get hurt, they're as you get older, you fall, and when you fall, you injure your leg or your hip or your knee, whatever it may be, because people don't have the strength to be able to decelerate from a movement that's you know a shock to the system. Like I used to train my athletes last, like I don't care if you can jump 10 feet in the air or 10 inches in the air, like how you land is more important than how you jump. Like most of us are used to those concentric movements, but if you can train your body to be strong in that eccentric pattern, like you're just going to be a stronger all around human being. So that
Yeah.
eccentric is
Therefore,
important.
like if you want to go back to the primary, what you just kind of said is, when you work eccentric split squats, that's more beneficial in sports setting where you're running, cutting, and sprinting than a back squat. I could argue,
Yeah.
sit here and argue that all day. So
Yeah.
it might be more important to have those in athletes programs and general population programs than maybe a back squat 3 times a week.
Yeah, because a big kind of principle behind that is the body's only going to absorb something it knows it can get out of. So if you go to, even if you do something as simple as like a depth jump, and you go from a high elevation jumping off and landing on one leg, your body, if it doesn't trust its muscles, you're going to land in your joints. It's going to hurt. It's going to maybe even echo up your spine a little bit. But the more that you train your systems to be able to engage and then get out of something, the more comfortable you're going to be when you come to a scenario that you slip and fall on ice or something like that you're not really planning for, that you're just hoping that you've trained good instincts to take over and prevent you from being injured.
Absolutely.
How are your sets and reps if you're developing strength? And how are your sets and reps different if you're developing power?
So breaking it like is power is very good. Going back to like what Riddick said is like controlling eccentrics. When I think power in a split squat, I'm almost thinking like I want to get reactive and explosive. So now I'm thinking jumps or dropping in, decelerating fast, and moving weight quick. So power is probably going to be lesser weight, but you're moving fast. Or you can start doing like oscillatory partial range of motion, bottom range or top range of motion, kind of getting that elastic spring, the tendency to bounce back really quick. That's going to be my power. So if we're working at the top range of motion, you're going to be working more like acceleration, if we're talking running, and the bottom's kind of more kind of just like overall like speed work. So that's where if you're training athletes, where you can kind of look at that in different ranges of motion. Strength, I'm going to look at, all right, how I'm going to get this person strong. 5 reps leg underneath, but I'm always doing strength before I'm doing any sort of power work, because I want to build that eccentric resiliency that Riddick's talking about before I really let them go and try to move fast, and they don't have a hamstring that can withstand that.
So give me a set and rep example.
So for strength, I like 5x3 each leg. I think you can push heavyweight for 3. For power, I like time stuff. So 7 seconds, as many reps as you can, as fast as you can on the left leg. Rest 10 seconds, 7 seconds as fast as you can on the right leg. And over time on that program, you should be able to get more reps in that 7 seconds. That's going to be your resiliency of building power and repetition.
And your strength is probably anywhere from 60 to 90% of your capacity, just depending on what week. And your power is probably about 40 to 50%.
Yeah, I would say strength might be more like 75 to 90, maybe almost sometimes 80 to 90%.
And then power is still that low 40.
Power's going to be sub 55. You could go like 30% to 55% lightweight. You're moving fast. Faster you can move lighter weight, the better it's going to be.
All right, well, that pretty much sums that up. I don't think you guys have any closing statements on the split squat? I feel like we all need to get like split squat tattoos now after this episode.
I got a quick question. What's your favorite variation of the split squat, you guys? How about you, Matt?
My favorite variation to a split squat. I'm loving the front rack position recently. I hated the front squat, and for the last year I've front squatted like religiously. And it literally just clicked probably this week where I was like, holy shit, the barbell is just like finally floating by itself on my shelf. And so I love the front rack position, and it doesn't really matter what my back leg's doing, whether it's elevated or it's on the ground, just kind of my toes on the ground. I find that to be my favorite personally, to have my toe on the ground. I also find with clients, it's just so funny when as soon as you get someone, they can look amazing in a split squat, and then as soon as you get their foot elevated, it just all goes to shit. I don't know if they're driving too much out of that right leg, or their posterior pelvic tilting on that right or that on that back leg's hip, so it's preventing them from keeping their core engaged properly. But I do find that just keeping that toe on the ground, keeping their weight forward, just the standard split squat. But I'm loving either like a goblet squat for a client or front rack position for myself.
As much as I hate them, rear foot elevated or Bulgarian split squats, they're just like the bang for your buck. I think those are my like favorite ones.
I did them today.
I hate them.
I did Bulgarian split squats today.
So.
And what about you, Riddick?
I agree. Definitely rear foot elevated, and from any position, whether it's barbell across the back, kettlebells in a rack position, suitcase hold. The only thing I'm not I've not yet tried. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've never put a barbell in a front rack position like I'm doing a front squat on a split squat. I may have to.
Those get fun, and
I can imagine that's a lot. That's a lot on your core, a lot on your
yeah,
posterior, resisting that spinal flexion.
it's not
Talk
a
about
lot of load. But I mean, I don't know, Matt, from your experience, but I feel like every time I walked on the floor here, there's Riddick doing some sort of rear foot elevation variation split squat, like any point during the week. I feel like he's the king of them in here. I feel like,
Really?
geez.
I feel like I
Still, I
always
don't.
Oh yeah, I
saw.
can always see him just using the pad thing, and like, all right, he's hammering away at it no matter what.
You're talking about Riddick?
Yeah, when he was here,
Oh,
I mean,
that's great. Cool. Well, we're going to wrap things up here for you guys. Last thing, we like to end with a little food for thought. So we have a quote of the day and then a short discussion. This is actually by a coach who trained so hard later in life, and he was going to be a walk-on, and right when they were about to sign him a contract and they found out more details, they found out his age, and they're like, absolutely not. And this is back in like the 70s and 80s. They just didn't want to take the risk on someone he was like 35 at the time. But his quote, Coach Ed Lane, goes, when you're too tired to do anything more, do it one more time. I love that quote because
I like that.
I think it sets the stage for when you notice that you're too tired, that's your first knee-jerk reaction of you being stuck in your comfort zone. That's homeostasis pulling you back from getting an adaptation. You doing it one more not only creates the mental toughness of like persevering through tough things, but also and then you get the adaptation, but then you also adjust the way you look at your performance. Before you thought, oh, I'm too tired, I can't do anything more. Well, no, I proved myself wrong. I actually did another round. So I think I love that quote for so many reasons. And I think it can be, you can err on the side of caution of some people who do too much already. You might tell them that that might not be the best quote for them. But I think this is a really good quote. It
Yeah,
applies
I
to
like
John.
it. Yeah, I use one that's very similar, and it's funny. Julie was just saying it the other day. She was doing intervals on the treadmill, and she's like, I'm really tired. I can't make this next one. She's like, you know what? You're not tired. You're being lazy. And sometimes we just need to know the difference between am I really, really tired or am I just being lazy and am I trying to cop out of doing this next rep or this next set? So when you can always push yourself that one bit extra, I think that's where we learn and where we grow a lot as just human beings. Like when we realize what we can really push our bodies to. So obviously, yeah, err on the side of caution, be smart. Don't be, too ambitious with it, but definitely be smart and yeah, push outside that comfort zone. I like it.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
If you're ready to make steps towards improving your health or increasing your performance, book a free 30-minute call today by visiting thinkfitnesslife.com.